Okay, guys, I just thought of something else. So, I talked about how, like, basically the devil makes all these counterfeits of things, and to, like, all of the good things that God created, the devil has a counterfeit that's a fraudulent, or its intention is to deceive people, right? So, I want to make this very quick distinction. Psychics, prophesizing is something that it's like, if God says it's going to happen, it is certain to happen. But that same thing is not actually what's happening with a psychic reading. A psychic is actually putting a curse on people through demons, right? So a psychic isn't predicting the future, they're cursing your future. That's the difference between getting a psychic reading and God giving someone the gift of prophecy. Because what God says is certain to happen is going to happen regardless of what the person prophesizing, right? Because they're just prophesizing something God knows is going to happen. Whether they actually prophesize it or not, it was going to happen. But with a psychic, the psychic is not actually predicting your future. They are putting a curse on your future. So they're saying, and this is why someone said, like, a lot of psychic readings are actually self-fulfilled prophecies, right? Because what a psychic will do is say, like, oh, you're going to be with this person. You're supposed to be with I see you with an athlete, right? And then what do people do? They start looking for all of the athletes that are giving them attention. And so they start seeking out what the psychic is telling them they're going to end up with. But that's not being fulfilled because that was what was actually supposed to be in their future, but because you are coming into agreement with what the psychic told you about your future, right? So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, but it's also a curse because you are seeking out something because someone told you to seek that out. And the other part of it is that, like, when a psychic predicts like something bad happening to you, it's also only comes to fruition if you are not protected by God. Basically, it's like it's speaking a spiritual curse over you. So someone who goes to psychics frequently, right, it's not going to start off as like, oh, they gave me a bad reading or they are telling me bad things about my future. But like I said, the point of the psychic readings is not being done by God. These are demonic spirits that are speaking things over people's lives in order to bring destruction into them. So these readings are often just putting curses on you, because when you're going to a psychic and you are believing what that psychic is predicting about your future, and those psychics are actually listening to demonic spirits putting curses over your life and speaking curses into your life, you're coming into agreement with demonic things, not things that are of God, things that are of the devil. And so someone who keeps going to psychics, keeps coming into alignment with what these psychics are saying, give the demonic principalities behind those psychic readings power to actually influence their life, because you come into agreement with those things. When you continue going to the psychic, right, that is what actually gives them power. It's not that they actually knew your future, it's that you came into agreement with the curse they were putting over your future, giving them the right to now attack you. So a psychic speaking curses, or a psychic speaking illness or death or anything into someone's future, is basically putting that curse on that person through them continuously trusting, putting their faith in, coming into agreement with things of demonic natures. They give the psychics, and it's not really the psychics, it's really the demonic principalities that these psychics are listening to, is what you are giving power over your lives when you are getting these readings done. Because like I said, psychics are not working through God or the Holy Spirit. If they were, they wouldn't be called psychics. They would be called prophet. It would be a prophecy. and prophecies come from the Holy Spirit. And even with prophetic, like the gift of prophecy, God tells you to test it through whether or not it actually happens. Think about how many people were doing psychic readings about the future. How many of these psychics actually were correct in what they predicted? So like, you know who's actually getting the truth from God and who's not, based off of what actually comes to pass, basically. But there was another story in the Bible, I can't remember, but God basically purposely let the prophets were not prophesying what God actually told them was to come, but also he said, like, these people aren't getting any of their information from me, they're just listening to whatever. So there's people who, if your information is not coming from God, it's counterfeit, basically. And then basically, what if it came from God, it's sure to happen. But if it doesn't come from God, it's not necessarily guaranteed to happen. It depends on, you know, it depends on the power that you give to it, right? So that's what I wanted to explain further. Like, psychics don't actually have power other than they're predicting things through demonic spirits, monitoring spirits. Like, the reason they're able to predict certain things or tell you certain things about yourself is because they are getting information from monitoring spirits around you. And monitoring spirits are demonic spirits, by the way. You know, they're following you around, they're seeing who you're around, they can tell you certain aspects of you because they've been monitoring you. And a psychic is not getting that information from God about you, they're getting it from a demonic spirit. So that's the other part of it too. It's like, those things are not, they're not getting their source is not God, basically. A psychic source is not God. That's what you need to know, and why you should not go to a psychic. Also, God tells you to not seek out a psychic anyway, because God even says, like, I know the plans I have for you. You're supposed to trust God. And sometimes God will give you a vision of your life and what you're supposed to do, but you'll know it's God because it will come from the Holy Spirit. Because even for myself, God has given me visions, I would say, in a dream through the Holy Spirit, of showing me things I would do in my future. But those things, he made it very clear, like, the things that he showed me I would do would only happen if I trusted him. So even with the things that God showed me about the future things I would do, it's like God saying, you're only going to do these if you put your trust in me. So it's not through anything that I've done, but through what God, it's not through me, it's through my faith in God, basically. And it's like, if I trust God, these things will happen. God made that very clear to me. So it's just like, it's not really, when God gives you a vision, it requires you to trust him. When psychics give you a vision, you're not trusting God, you're trusting that psychic, and that psychic is not typically serving God, because God tells people don't do those things. You know, prophecy, the gift of prophecy is very different from a psychic, because the sources are not the same. One of the sources is God, and the other source is the devil. All right.